do when a company reports better than expected results, but then its stock gets slammed through no fault of its own? I'm talking today about Charles River Labs, CRL, the contract research organization that provides universities and biopharma firms, and big drug companies too, with everything they need to discover new drugs and conduct early-stage clinical trials, right down to the lab rats and mice that drugs need to be tested on. Charles River has a 50% share in research models, meaning rats and mice, 20% share in toxicology, 20% in drug discovery, and 20% in endotoxin and microbial detection. They're a major player in the early-stage drug discovery game, something we've heard a lot about, right, because of the concern about Ebola and the need to speed up the development of potential early-stage treatments and vaccines for the virus. Now, here's the thing. Last night, Charles River reported a terrific quarter, 6-cent earnings beat off an 80-cent basis, higher than expected revenues that rose 12.2% year over year. And management gave upside guidance for the full year, yet the stock, it got dinged. It fell 2.6%. Why? Because the company's competitor, Parexel, delivered some truly horrendous results and a hideous conference call. Parexel's stock plummeted over 16% today, and it caused negative pin action. It drove Charles River down with it. And look, CRL had just reached its high ahead of the quarter. This stock has given you a 7% gain since we spoke to the CEO this past August, and I think you could be getting a rare opportunity here to buy it into some unjustified post-earnings weakness. Let's take a closer look with Jim Foster, the chairman and CEO of Charles River Labs, to learn more about the quarter and where his company's headed. Mr. Foster, welcome back to Mad Money.
Nice to be here, Jim.
All right, Jim, you did an acquisition. I want to go right to it. Because it's very exciting. Chantest, which sounds like you are now in the business of being able to try to figure out individual drugs for individual people because of in vitro. Could you explain it to people? Because I thought it was the most exciting thing you guys have done in years.
Sure. So we did an acquisition in April of a company called Argentin Biofocus, which moves us upstream to identify drug targets, design the molecule, design the drug, and test it in vitro, so not in animals. So that's the architecture for this deal we announced last night called Chantest, which is in the ion channel business. And that simply means that you want to get drugs into the channel to across a whole bunch of different therapeutic areas. And so the deal does two things for us. It allows us to discover novel compounds across, novel targets across areas like inflammation and pain. And also, since the FDA is worried about cardiac effect with drugs, we will be doing safety testing with this company. So one of the adverse impacts of targets on these channels is that it can cause arrhythmia. So drugs that will be approved have to be tested to show lack of cardiac problems. You remember Vioxx being pulled off the market because of cardiac problems. So we'll be in that business as well, which is a wonderful addition to our portfolio.
Well, maybe think about also, of course, the disease that's on a lot of people's mind, which is Ebola. If you want to do tests and you want it to be fast, would Chantest be involved? Is it that kind of thing? Or are you just the guys who basically people are saying, help us, please help us, Jim, try this, try that, we've got to solve this problem?
Yeah, so Chantest is there to help. Look, the drug companies are all about finding novel targets. If they can't find targets, they can't develop drugs against them. And that's what biotech companies are doing these days. And now with these companies that we are buying, we will be able to discover the targets, not for ourselves, but for our clients. In things like Ebola, where we did some work on Cramer, one of the drugs that's in the marketplace, has been in the marketplace recently, we did the safety work in animals to make sure that that drug was safe if it eventually wanted to go into people. And recently, the FDA, which was being very careful about providing drugs to these patients because there's an unmet need under the compassionate use theory, made this drug available. And actually, one of the patients that's been in the public press got the drug and is fine as a result of that. So we've been involved historically with the AIDS campaign, recently with the Ebola campaign. We could do more in Ebola. We'll see. And so we're participating in the discovery and development of drugs, both in vitro these days with our new acquisitions and in vivo with the historical companies that we've had. And now we can do it across the whole spectrum from target ID all the way through drugs being filed with the FDA, and then with situations like Ebola actually being on the marketplace, and now knowing the drugs are safe because we've worked on them.
But Jim, let me ask you, are there drugs that could kill Ebola, but they kill the patient? Is that what goes on?
I don't think we know that yet. There could be. That's a very difficult and delicate decision for the FDA to make. You recall with the AIDS crisis, they had to make decisions like that. I think when there are unmet needs, the FDA, if they believe it's safe, will offer to the client, will offer to patients on this compassionate use theory, even not having a bunch of human clinical trial data. And I think that's an appropriate thing to do. I think if they know that the drug isn't safe and the safety profile isn't good, that it's kind of pointless to give it to the patient. So no, I don't think that there are drugs that would kill the patients that otherwise would be available. And if there were, I think it's the FDA's role to keep it off the market.
Well, you guys had a great quarter. You're doing this. I think this acquisition is the most important thing you've done so far. Jim Foster, Chairman, President, and CEO of Charles River Labs, thank you so much, sir, for coming on Mad Money.
Pleasure, Jim.
This is the company that's at the forefront of all that money that the biotech companies raise. A lot of it goes right to Charles River, and you can see why I'm so excited about the story. Mad Money's back in.